of Europe, even tomorrow in Belgrade, as I see Slobodan, and also then on Sunday London, Warsaw, Zurich, Madrid, and many more. But we are here for the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, for the 9th CEO Conference of European Athletics. Please have your mobile phones in mode silent, but of course you are free to tweet, but only if you are connected. So wait until the organization puts everything up. It should be like in 1 hour that we will be able to all connect via Wi-Fi also in this room. But the most appropriate thing would be to start the CEO conference with the CEO of European Athletics, Christian Milz.
One, two, it works. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, on behalf of European Athletics, it's a great pleasure to greet you on the occasion of the 2018 edition of the European Athletics CEO Conference, and to thank you all to have made the journey to Minsk. It's also great to see that all the member federations are present, except Andorra, who could not make it, and also Russia, who is suspended. It's really for us a strong sign that these such gatherings are very valuable to you, and that's very important to us. A special welcome to, first of all, our distinguished keynote speakers who are honoring us of their presence despite their very busy agenda. Alphonse will introduce them into detail, but we already look forward to listening to them later on this morning. As you know, we always invite participants from other areas at such conferences. And today we are very happy to welcome the General Secretary of NACAC, Michael Serralta. Is he in the room? Probably, we saw him last night, but probably still a bit jet-lagged. He will join us later, hopefully. Last but not the least, we have a very special last-minute keynote speaker, and thank you very much to Nigel Garfitt, the fresh, brand new acting CEO of AWF. Please, Nigel, that everybody can see you, you can stand. From all the audience here, we wish you all the best in your future journey, and we look forward to working and cooperating with you. Welcome, Nigel. Officially, as Alphonse said, it's our 9th CEO conference, as we started to count from 2001, when the conference became a biennial activity in our program. However, the roots go much deeper, as we had similar seminars already in the 90s. But the purpose of the conference has always been the same: to gather all operation brains, to gather all operational leaders from all over Europe, and to meet in person and to exchange. Not to meet through Skype or any technical device separating us. The CEO conference is an important element of how we communicate in different directions. European Athletics with you, member federations between yourselves, and even more important, the reverse action, member federations to European Athletics. Another key element that the CEO conference can offer is a proper platform for networking, a proper stage for developing professional and social contacts and for connecting with others. Probably the most important part of the conference is to have the opportunity to discuss strategic topics in depth. And the CEO conference is a rare opportunity to take time to get off the bike, to take a big breath, to observe the other riders, and then to decide how you can improve your pace, how you can improve your riding. However, not the least, social element is also a very important part. I said at the beginning, dear friends, because I strongly believe that we are a family, you and we can count on the neighbor. We can count on each family members at any occasion, and together we are stronger. Everything we are doing, we do it with passion and with our guts. And believe me, we always do our utmost, especially the European Athletics Council, the European Athletics Commissions, working groups, my great team at the Lausanne office to help and to serve you in the best way we can. At the CEO conference, we always try to invite speakers from outside the organization and also from outside our sports. It's again the case this year, and I can confirm that we have been very fortunate to have and to have chosen keynote speakers of top quality and very, very high standard. And we trust they will inspire us this morning. Embracing Change, that's the title of our conference. And this title, Embracing Change, echoes the Sven Arnes manifesto Leading Change, presented on his occasion of his successful election campaign back in 2015. Discussions here will include things that we have changed or in our process to change, and will also include new ideas in line with the manifesto promises. The most important outputs of the conference is to continue the process of embedding innovation in the culture of athletics in Europe and to extend it to the member federation level. Innovation, yes, but always with a critical eye on the value creation for athletics in anything we are doing. It's also important to assess the feasibility of any new project in all aspects before to start. Clearly, we should be brave enough to say no to a project that shows no added value to the sport. And we should be brave enough to say yes when most of the feasibility study outcomes tells you that there is a serious opportunity for a strong return on investment even a couple of years later. Taking risks cannot be separated from an innovation process. No guts, no glory. And don't forget that you will be remembered for the projects you have created. As a consequence, the sustainable legacy you will leave behind each project you have built is of crucial importance in your country and in Europe. The world is changing. The environment we live in is changing. Both are going to keep changing. And the change is going to come faster and faster. We need to work together to face this situation and even, if possible, to anticipate it. As I mentioned earlier, the CEO conference has its roots in the 1990s. Did you have a smartphone or internet connection back then? Obviously not. But technology and marketing march on, and now the picture you see on the screen is how life is today. Were you celebrating the fantastic victory of Fermin Cacho at the Olympics 1992 during the 1500 meter on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or Twitter? The answer is no. Today, people are consuming information and results in a complete different way as it was 26 years ago. In 1992, there were some boards around the stadium, even no commercial boards for the Olympics, a couple of cameras, press people, photographers, and that's it. Do you remember the big story in the 90s too about the famous Y2K, the crossing from the year 99 to the year 2000? What a nightmare for all the IT experts from all the planet, just to pass from one day to another. Even our sport was strongly impacted. However, such issue would have not existed even 10 years before that, as the technology was not that well advanced. By the way, at that time of the Y2K, how old was Usain Bolt? Even not 14-year-old, and nobody knew him. And now, he's already history. You see, things are changing very, very quickly. Everybody speaks about change, but nobody, and I'm the first, probably don't like to change. Look at the cartoon. I think that's reality. Well, maybe not everybody doesn't like to change. As this happy man on the picture saw change as a normal and necessary process. In his Leading Change manifesto, Sven Arne underlined the importance of the fact that progress, innovation, and change must be part of our culture, must be part of our DNA. And it's this new and fresh breeze that Sven Arne has been bringing to the organization since 2015 that inspired us for the theme of this conference. And it's also our message. We need to embrace change. We hope really the program of the conference today and tomorrow will motivate you to lead thoughtful change in your respective countries and together with European Athletics. For European Athletics, it's crucial that everything we do has relevance and coherency. We don't want to repeat and repeat the same thing every time we meet. We want to listen to you through post-conference surveys, through emails, through discussions, and always update the content or bring new topics of general interest every time we meet. Before Alphonse will talk about the program of today and tomorrow, I would like to have a short look back at the last year convention in Vilnius, where we had our biggest program ever, with 5 different workshops on 5 different topics alongside the Member Federation Leaders Forum. Following Vilnius, we created a working group to study your feedback and bring to Minsk the most appropriate content. And we will do the same after the CEO conference to thoroughly prepare the convention in Lausanne in October this year. Just to refresh your mind, what happened at the Vilnius workshops? First workshop, that's the results and data management for member federations. 100% from participants said we need to go on. And the goal here is really to reach an automatic exchange of data and results with all of you, member federations, to have a unique central platform for all the results of athletics in Europe and to have a same data format, which is a simple one that can be exchanged between federations and with European Athletics. Tomorrow, Nicola will speak more about that. Childhood protection. Also, 100% of the participants said that we need to go on, and probably the next time we will expand that to a more general topic, safety for children, and we have this topic on the list for the convention in Lausanne. Age group championships hosting opportunities, 85% of participants told us, please do it again. The only let's say, not so positive point. We had one hosting city present, and we need to find ways how we can attract more cities. We need feedbacks from outside of the sport. And it's also on the list for a future workshop. Anti-doping education, 95% want to tackle it again. We have now created Iron Clean platform. It will be kicked off for the first time ever in the sport of athletics to have a non-sporting standard in gear on the occasion of the under-18 championships. And Adi and Bill will talk more about this platform tomorrow too. Finally, European Athletics funding, 90% want a follow-up. Jean and the Development Commission members are working on a more specific content like ways how to involve member federation with an Erasmus budget line. And it's also on our list for the convention this year. Before to end my introduction, I think it's very important also to say thank you to the people who have really paid attention and put a lot of efforts in organizing this convention. First of all, thanks a lot to the Belarus Federation. Vadim, the president, he's not here. He has a health problem, which we all think about him. And probably he may come and see us. Also, thank you to his team with Sasha, Nadia, Maria, and all the fantastic and dedicated staff. And I suggest we give them a big hand, even very, very loud, that Vadim can hear us. Thanks also to all our guests, it means to you, and to the speakers. Thanks to the project team for developing this program here in Minsk, Jean, Marco, Bill, and Marc. And also thanks to all the European Athletics staff involved in the logistics of the conference, Bill, Marco, Marc, and Sandro. They also deserve a big applause from us. Spasiba bolshoi, and enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Christian. As you heard, Christian invited all of us to be courageous and to embrace the change. But how to do it? That's now the part for our three keynote speakers who are coming from outside of our sport. And then later, we will have also with all of them a panel discussion, so you can prepare also some questions for that discussion. First gentleman who will speak to you today morning is a man who can be described as somebody who created the industry, who created business in sport. He was working many years in Olympic movement for the IOC. He will say that himself. Then he was also helping Bernie Ecclestone with Formula One, and recently was instrumental in one of the biggest sponsorship deals in the sport with Chinese giant Alibaba. And he promised to be provocative. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Payne.
So, good morning. Thank you for those very kind words. Mr. President, dear delegates, dear friends of athletics, great honor to be with you here today, and a great honor to be in this great sporting city of Minsk. I've spent my whole career at the forefront of the sports marketing business, probably best known for my time at the IOC when I was head of marketing and broadcasting, pioneering many industry firsts, and just recently attended my 19th Olympic Games. That's summer and winter, before you try and work out the mental arithmetic. Since leaving the IOC in 2004, I formed my own global strategic consultancy with a list of blue chip clients, that have given me a unique insight into the evolving nature of the sports marketing and media industry around the world and beyond the Olympics. For 13 years, I acted as special advisor to Bernie Ecclestone at Formula One until he stood down last year, helping Bernie to identify new venues to host Formula One, from Sochi to the innovative night race in Singapore. And then, in the end, helping Bernie sell Formula One to the American media group Liberty for some $8 billion. For the last 15 years, I've also acted as advisor and continue to WPP, the world's largest media marketing group, helping them to design their global sports strategy. I also work with many of the world's leading broadcasters, from TV Globo in Brazil to Channel 7 in Australia, looking at their international rights acquisition. And most recently brokered what some view as the most groundbreaking partnership deal in the history of the sports industry with Alibaba and their new decades-long deal with the Olympic movement that will truly transform the fundamental principles of partnership. But my career actually all began with your great sport of athletics. And believe it or not, with your good president, Sven Arni, when back in the late 70s, I managed the athletics department of an agency that at the time was the world's leading event marketing agency, West Snally, looking after none other than the Bislett Games, among other events. And I also, as part of my responsibilities at West Snally, worked on the team that helped launch the very first World Athletics Championships in Helsinki in '83, helped launch the London Marathon with Chris Brasher in 1981 that led to a series of further city marathons across the continent, to the 1982 European Athletics Championships in Greece, the European Indoor Championships in Budapest. So my heart and roots go very much back to the sport of athletics. And I guess it was perhaps for that reason that Sven Arni felt that I might have an interesting view on the industry and could share some insights with you as to what is happening in the world, where it is going, what you should be thinking about, how to embrace change. I certainly do have a view on the industry and lots of insights and stories, although I'm not sure how open and colorful Sven Arni would like me to be, as we do go back a long, long way. Long before Sven Arni ever imagined becoming president and that he would need to behave in a more presidential manner. So, Sven Arni, how open am I allowed to be? We'll see. But aside from sharing some insights into the current trends, I guess my address today is designed to provoke, to get you thinking, to challenge you, to possibly take you beyond your comfort zone. There is a famous phrase and purported Chinese curse that goes, "May you live in interesting times." Well, as I've spent my whole professional career, nearly 4 decades, at the forefront of the business of sport, and never have I seen such a period of rapid change, uncertainty, and turmoil. As Mario Andretti, the great racing driver, said, "If everything seems under control, you're not going fast enough. Safe is the new risky." And it was great to hear your CEO open the conference talking about taking risk. No guts, no glory. But the pace and the speed of change. Companies used to have 5-year plans and 10-year-long strategic plans. The IOC elects its host cities 7 years out from hosting the games, which means bringing it all together in the city perhaps more than a decade out. But nowadays, some companies struggle to develop a clear plan just 2 years out. I said, we've never seen such a period of rapid change, of uncertainty, of turmoil. And today, the sports movement is faced with an unprecedented collapse in confidence. I believe that the events of the last 24 months, where sports governance has been placed under the media spotlight like never before, is placing at risk the very mission of sport. The crisis currently engulfing international sport is undoubtedly the most serious challenge it has faced in our lifetimes. The escalating doping scandals, the on-field match fixing, the manipulation of results, the engagement of the FBI and the US justice system, along with the Spanish, the Austrian, the Swiss, all of the different justice systems, the ensuing arrest and imprisonment of numerous sports leaders. World sport has been faced with a tsunami of non-stop daily scandals. Sponsors are questioning their investment. Few new sponsors are coming forward. Some existing sponsors are even withdrawing. Fans are all taking notice, and the implication of this has the potential to be truly catastrophic. Some commentators are asking, has sport gone bad, or has society changed and sport has just failed to keep up? It has been said of many sports federations, they had a 19th century constitution in a 21st century organization. So that the question that the leaders of world sport have to ask themselves is, are they ready to face the challenge? Much of the responsibility for restoring the reputation of sport falls on your shoulders and on the response taken by the different sports organizations. And the question to ask, are you willing to adapt? These are uncharted waters that many sports leaders find themselves in, and they need to ask themselves the following questions if they're going to plot a course out of this turmoil. 1, what is your organization's fundamental purpose, and how do you measure success? 2, what are the core values that are guiding you to fulfilling that purpose? And 3, how do you turn the current crises into an opportunity? While there is no doubting the extent and seriousness of the current crisis, it also represents a watershed moment, a historic opportunity for sports organizations to rebuild their relationship with their fans and to promote the true value of sport in society. Then, with these opportunities presented by the evolving digital environment, you can take these relationships to a whole new level so that fans and your stakeholders can truly see the results of your actions. The popularity of sport is changing as the youth dynamic changes. Traditional Olympic power sports, from athletics to swimming to gymnastics often struggle to gain any real media profile in the US or in some mainstream European markets outside of the 4-year window between the Olympic Games. And these traditional sports in the youth mindset are being replaced by a fascination with esports or parkour or inline skating. But the increasing focus on urban sports is, though, something that I believe athletics should carefully study and could move to own the urban sports agenda. On media rights, the days of simple media negotiation are also long over. You used to know who to negotiate with, and there was a clear list of media networks. And then along came new media. Live streaming has been referred to as the ticking time bomb for traditional broadcasters, which, for most federations, is their main revenue source. The sports world is undergoing a revolution in governance, a revolution in business, in media engagement, in the very product at an unprecedented rate that many people are struggling to understand, never mind even react to. For some, the outlook is intimidating. They have lost control of the process, and they are scared. But for others, there is great opportunity. And I would argue that there has never been a better time to engage with the sports world. And the outlook is perhaps not as grim or as intimidating as my initial remarks might suggest. You only have to look at some of the media headlines over the last few months to look at how big investment groups, the biggest and most substantial investment groups in the world, are starting to move into the sports agenda. I referenced earlier the $8 billion sale of Formula One. That was followed by headlines that the ITF is negotiating a multi-billion-dollar partnership deal with an investment company to rebuild the Davis Cup. And then only last week, you saw of headlines of FIFA receiving a proposal of $25 billion to create 2 new events. And this wasn't wishful thinking. You only have to look was who was behind that offer. From Masato Son and SoftBank, one of the most respected industrialists in the world, who has just created a $100 billion vision fund, through to the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia. And the Middle East is just beginning to wake up to the potential importance of sport in their society, the potential importance of sport as a branding vehicle, and Qatar is a sideshow compared to what is coming down. And this was an opening offer of $25 billion to create 2 new events. So, with that backdrop, as an observer of the global sports scene, let me share with you a few key predictions about the future of sport. This is where you take the ad break. Firstly, good governance. Sport is going to have to move fast to get its own house in order. Simply put, bluntly put, adapt or die. We all live in a world where there is 24/7 scrutiny from the global media and continuous attention of the social media-enabled fans that demand transparency, that demand behavior that aligns with their values, that demands accountability from their stakeholders. The corporate and political worlds have had to live in this fishbowl for some time now, and the sports world is having to quickly catch up. Facing such new scrutiny, and many sports organizations have been found wanting, their very future is at threat. FIFA, as we used to know it, is dead. They will have to evolve, or they will be replaced. Boxing is at risk of being thrown out of the Olympics in Tokyo 2020 by the IOC if it does not reform. And the list can go on. I think we will see increasingly sports get the governing bodies that they truly deserve: transparent, accountable to fans, professional leadership serving with integrity. But there is nothing to say, and listen carefully, that these governing bodies managing the future of sport have to be the incumbent body of today. If the incumbent bodies think they have a monopoly, they do not. Those that do not respond to this new environment, this new scrutiny, this new era of good governance, will not be with us for much longer. 2, the consumption of media and sport. The media world is changing at a pace that few people truly appreciate. In an era when sports are faced with a myriad of competition, from computer games to films to TV, music, and other entertainment options, especially among the younger age group, maintaining relevance is a key challenge. The explosion in the number of channels, the number of options for consumers to watch and engage, will make sport, and live sport, only more important. The viewer will be empowered as never before. Choice will rule, watching what you want, when you want, how you want. The potential is unlimited, but the only way that advertisers can reach a large live audience will be through sport and live sport. When I joined the IOC in the early 80s, the value of our TV rights back then was under $100 million. When I left 2 decades later, the value of the TV rights over a 4-year period had grown close to $5 billion. But identifying who are your best media partners is becoming ever more complicated, as the traditional media players struggle themselves to adapt and stay relevant. In China alone, the leading 3 sports media players did not exist 6 years ago. And yesterday, you read that Amazon had just acquired the exclusive broadcast rights for the US tennis for the territories of UK and Ireland, paying $40 million over 6 years. There's a great opportunity through choice. Sport that in the past might have struggled to reach their diverse fan base can take advantage of new technology and communicate directly to that fan base. But also tread carefully. Tread very carefully. I have seen many sports get seduced by the potential short-term dollar-euro gains of new media, only to find that that new media partner could not deliver the audience. One sure way to kill off a sport is by creating too many barriers to watch. So as you go forward, create a balanced portfolio. One that delivers and guarantees the exposure with the largest possible audience, but also delivers the promotion and the critical revenue, because without the revenue coming in, we can't survive either. But work to find that balance. It's a pendulum. Get it in the middle. This leads me to my third prediction: the future potential power of community. The sports world is only just beginning to understand, from a business perspective, the potential power of community engagement and the opportunities offered by new technology. Digital engagement and the new media will, for the first time, allow sports to create a real, live community, and a community that you can connect one-on-one. It's unbelievably powerful, and I think we're only beginning to understand this potential. I believe, in all due respect to the speaker who I have tremendous admiration for, who follows me from the EBU, but I believe that the impact here on sport will ultimately be far bigger than television. And again, it's actually in China that we're seeing many Chinese companies leading the way in understanding how to make those one-on-one connections. And they're taking that onto a global scale. Talking about China, I've just challenged myself trying to get to Minsk from China with a somewhat convoluted route. But it was interesting being there last week, listening. I asked them the question, which sports are changing, are really hot in China? Because it's an interesting sort of R&D center. And the question they came back with, the sport that in the last 18 months is really taking off? Running. Not basketball, not NBA, not table tennis, running. As it did in Europe in the 70s and 80s. Running is leading the charge over all other sports now in China. Back to the revolutions. I believe television created the first true revolution in the sports world in the 1960s and 70s by opening up the fan base and taking the sport beyond the confines of the stadium. It certainly also opened up the finances. 2 decades later, we began to see the second revolution, the development of sponsorship as companies embraced the brand advertising opportunities offered by sport. And I believe we're now at the cusp, at the dawn of the third revolution, the revolution of digital community engagement that has the potential to be the biggest and most disruptive revolution of all, and the one that can create the greatest opportunities. My fifth prediction relates to the changing world of sponsorship, which is also changing at a pace that few chief marketing officers are struggling to keep up with as they fight to stand out from the ever-increasing marketing clutter and to get their message heard. Many international companies have understood how to use sport as a real business tool. And you have to look at Samsung, who evolved from a third-rate, low-cost manufacturer when I brought them into the Olympics in 1997 to a global powerhouse with unrivaled brand profile, achieved in less than a decade, all on the back of their Olympic and sports strategy. But a note of caution. Fans are starting to engage more directly with their sporting heroes. Brands now have alternative ways to engage with their generation without being official partners or sponsors. And as such, find maybe they have less need for governing bodies or organizations. Here is another threat, but also an opportunity for sports organizations. For these same sports organizations are also guardians of one of the most precious assets any organization can own: vast amounts of data and insights that could be used to serve the fans on a one-on-one basis to attract new commercial partners. As you develop your marketing and sponsorship strategies, it's critically important to understand how companies have changed what they are now looking for. It used to be fundamentally about exposure, about board advertising around the side of the track. That can still be important for some companies, but for many, the Coca-Colas of this world, they already said, we already have all the brand exposure we need. Sport can offer us far more valuable marketing opportunities that is focused on engagement, on really changing the brand positioning, on experiential marketing, on helping them to stand out from the clutter. The way companies are engaging is also changing. It was interesting to read a couple of weeks ago that Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser, the big beer brand that's probably one of, if not the largest sponsors in America, they've just announced that they're changing the way that they sponsor events by having a basic flat fee and then giving incentives, success fees to the sport or federation based on their performance. It's no longer going to be a case of cashing the sponsorship fee and putting the money in the bank and then forgetting your sponsor and getting on with life. No, you're going to have to work hard. Sponsorship fees might be reduced at the signing, but the potential for bonuses and incentives, I mean, a lesson actually taken from the sports industry when you look at how Adidas or Nike used to reward their athletes. Sponsors are now going in this direction. If you achieve certain metrics in social media, you increase your social media audience, we'll pay you more. If you maintain or increase your TV audience, we'll pay you more. That's coming. That change and dynamic is coming real fast. Number 6, the growing importance of data. And maybe this is partly repeating the previous 2 points, but data and big data has ultimately the potential to be a more important revenue source for sport than all of the other marketing sources. Without a clear data management, customer relationship program, you won't have a sponsorship program. And we're seeing how data will transform intelligent sportswear that will soon become the norm, providing a wealth of information that fans will embrace, from measuring the impact of rugby tackles to the speed of athletes' acceleration to heart rate. The potential is unlimited. And so also will be some of the ethical issues that will come with this new frontier. But the need to expand the entertainment experience is a challenge facing every single sport. How can you bring the fans closer? How do you make them more intimately involved in the presentation? Everybody thinks about the role of visual. But in terms of creating some real powerful engagement, the role of audio can sometimes be even more important. And in Formula One, we pioneered a whole new development in audio by starting to listen in to the driver's conversation with the team principal. And that pulled the fans in ever closer. And again, I think sport, can all take lessons from each other and how to expand that audio engagement, the digital engagement, giving closer insights, balancing obviously on confidentiality issues, but explore it. Number 7. Don't worry, I've only got 83 forecasts to make. Number 7, the dynamics of hosting major events. That's also changing, with local political leaders being challenged to show what sort of return on investment can be gained from staging these events. They can no longer just sign a check because the public is going to say, well, you've used our money, our tax money, to stage that event. What's in it for us? It's no longer enough just to bask in the glory of being a host, but they now have to make hosting work to deliver clear results, from business development to inward investment to tourism to city branding. How does a city today create its own image and have an impact? It's no longer just about building facilities, but how do you integrate the culture, the dynamism of a region into the actual presentation of the event? Turning the city itself into a stage. And again, this is a space that athletics should exploit. Take the risk sometimes of stepping out of the confines of the stadium. And to better understand the changing nature of hosting and bidding of events, you only have to look at the problems the IOC is facing these days in attracting new cities, and how the debate on whether to host a major event is being hijacked by external political issues and the ensuing public referendum. That even if it may be a referendum, do we have the games or not? It's actually probably about a series of other unrelated political issues, of which the sports movement has been held hostage. Not good. My last 2 predictions take us back to the pure world of sport. What to do about the doping problem? A problem that is occupying a disproportionate amount of media and political attention at present. The IOC and the IFs have single-handedly led the fight against doping for decades. When the IOC founded WADA back in '99 after the meltdown surrounding the Tour de France, governments and politicians have repeatedly leapt on their soapbox to slam sports organizations. But few governments and politicians have been willing to provide real political or financial support behind that fight. IOC and WADA have continually faced a battle to get governments to match their commitments. And the media has a remarkable ability to ignore the problem of US professional sports leagues or European soccer leagues. And yet when it comes to the Olympic sport, it's the end of the world. I'm aware of the particular focus that here in European athletics that you've placed on education. And I would just endorse that direction as a key pillar to the future fight against doping. But my prediction, in the same way as the Tour de France crisis was the catalyst for the beginning of a real fight against doping, this latest crisis, driven by the Russian doping saga, will, I think, be a catalyst for enhancing the fight with a greater real engagement, financially, legislatively, from government towards sports bodies. But when I think about the problems of doping, pale into insignificance compared to the threat of match fixing. And here is my final prediction. The threat of match fixing, result fixing, whether it's refereeing in boxing, judging in gymnastics, has the potential to undermine the fundamental integrity of sport to a far greater degree than doping. If the sports fan can't believe in the integrity of the sports result, then it's game over. Match fixing eradicates the one thing that makes sport so powerful: its unpredictability. And I believe the sports world is only just beginning to wake up to the full potential of the threat of match fixing. Ignore this, and we've got a real problem. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. I hope I've given you a few things to think about as you debate your future direction of European athletics over the next couple of days. I congratulate your President, Sven Arne, for the initiative and direction of this forum, for embracing new thinking, new ideas, for challenging the way of doing things. Be brave. Be willing to take some risks. Experiment. Don't get locked in the past. Think of the new ways to present running, jumping, throwing. Embrace them. And those stories about Sven 40 years ago, I will be in the bar this evening, and anybody who would like to buy me a drink and keep Sven the other side of the bar, we could have a very fun, interesting, entertaining evening. Sorry? Ah, yes, but I'm not the president, so I don't have a reputation to protect. Back to my opening remarks with the so-called Chinese proverb, "May we live in interesting times." Let me close with another Chinese reference. In the Chinese language, the word crises is composed of two characters, one representing danger and the other opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. There are many points you for sure noted. I noted two things for your thoughts: remain relevant and turn crisis into opportunity. But we will have the chance to ask Michael in our panel discussion. And by the way, that's true. Every weekend, another marathon, also in China. So we move forward, and I'm happy to present a gentleman who represents the biggest partner of European athletics. We are coming to TV industry, to European Broadcasting Union, views, visions, current status. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Director of EBU Sport, Stefan Curtin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, dear President, dear members, dear friends of athletics. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very honored to have the possibility here to speak to you and to address from an EBU perspective our vision on the future of sports. We think changing, and as Michael has said it, and we had long discussions in the past, even sitting on other sides of the table, I think the last really extraordinary, fantastic deal the IOC was doing was when we negotiated it. I think we brought to the audience with the Olympics in London an outstanding event. And we hope that the IOC comes back to good terms at a later stage and understands the value of public service broadcasting in a cooperation. Listening or thinking about change and what is change, I remembered actually a meeting that I had many, many years ago at the CNN headquarters. It was the traditional opening joke cracked by the speaker. He said, look, and this was a decade, more than a decade ago, he said, look, in future, I tell you, you will sit with your family, with your wife, in your living room, and it's ringing, and you will say, honey, could you please answer the television? I'm watching the phone. And yes, there we are. This is the situation. It was in these days just future. Today it is reality. We don't know which means we use when we watch moving pictures or when we watch any kind of content. Just sorry, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. When we watch any kind of picture, and we see that these changes are happening all over the place. We spoke about China. We have lots of new players in China. What is happening in China? Michael, you referred to that. In China, there is something happening which I think is outstanding. The Chinese have discovered the value of what we're doing in sports, what Europe has done throughout all the decades in the world of sports. They identify that the connection between society and sports is something which is extremely important for them. And they try to copy that. They said, which is the best sport where we can engage our audiences, where we can engage the masses, where we can get people active on the street to actually do good for their health. And they found the European model quite perfect. And they said, let's have this, let's copy that. Let's focus on all these sports now and try to catch the sports and bring them into China and to make our people active as we have it in Europe. Great, fantastic. But what happens in Europe at the same time? I think we are about to lose that. There's a big risk of losing this link to society. And actually, when we in Europe are getting is just a flu on the Olympic sports, I think the world sports is really badly sick. And this is why we are deeply engaged in the sports. We think this is a kind of activity of public service broadcasting that we have to protect, that we have to make sure that whatever the changing world is, that we reach the widest possible audience in order to keep the people active and make them move and have them understand what cultural value sports is in society. So what's happening in all this world? You know this. There are the big players. We have heard about this. Michael referred to them. There are big players, big sharks now coming on the world sports industry. We have seen that. And always, we as EBU, public service broadcasters, are thinking, oh, another challenge. We have seen pay TV coming. Did we survive it? Yes. We have seen agencies coming. Did we survive it? Yes. We are seeing now the big players coming. Are we surviving it? Yes. We are seeing the digital world coming. And let's see how we react to this. But we have clearly a situation where the big players, the sharks, are entering the sports world. Michael referred to this. We have mergers and acquisition. These are the mergers of acquisition in the media world since 2014. Just to give you an idea. This is happening, this is reality. And they all want to go into that camp. But why? This is not only because they want to protect the sports, because they have understood that the sports actually is a property that could add to their overall business case better than other properties. So they understand, for example, when we look at the construction industry in China, a construction industry, a company dealing with constructions, buying a sports agency in Europe. Why do they do that? Well, they have a good idea. Being at this sport, bringing the sports into China, building the hotels, building the highways, building the stadium is a fantastic plan. And this is what they are doing. So there is a completely different concept behind that, where they're saying the sport is no longer the value of the sports. The value is that the sports can bring to another property. And this is something where we see a huge problem, and where we believe that this way is probably allowing to generate a couple of dollars more for some sports, but at the end it might really endanger the whole situation, because these companies can also turn away. They can merge with others and they move in another direction, and things are then becoming quite different. So the sharks, this is the first change, clearly are becoming bigger. We have a globalization, and the sports is clearly exposed and a target for these organizations. And the general trends in this respect are very simple. The Asians are focusing on the European sports. The Americans are focusing on the European sports. And the Arab world is focusing on the sports. All for different reasons. The Asians, as we have seen, to copy a system that is acting and happening and functioning in Europe. We'll see what happens and whether they succeed, but it will take decades. The Americans are coming in and they bring, let's say, different products. They have different ideas, services, industries. For example, the distribution industry into now content acquisition. For them, they want to secure their business case by having this kind of, let's say, content on top of the distribution. Liberty is a very, very active player. Distribution, cable, whatever you want to have in the European countries. Now, if you see who is sitting on the Liberty board and who is sitting on the board of Discovery with John Malone, you see suddenly that the two have the same idea, and Discovery is buying Eurosport, and Eurosport is buying the Olympic Games with Discovery. So there is a connection where you see clearly that different industries are working together and merging, let's say, interests, and try to bundle certain forces in order to do better. The Arab world comes in with another world. They have the idea of saying, okay, in particular the Qatari world, they think being with the blue chips in sports is probably better than having, let's say, for geopolitical reasons, other defense armies, or this means nobody could ever invade us or have a kind of action against us. So they want to occupy, looking at the fact that certain natural resources are probably disappearing over the next decades. They want to have the properties, their foot in this property as well. So things are happening on the big players. The second development that we see is that the new players were coming in these days. For us, the new players, we have the telcos. The telecommunication companies, they're also going into the sports rights acquisition. They want to buy. Some of them faded out. You see it here. Some of them, Orange left, Belgacom, they all said, okay, it was too early. Telekom in Switzerland, Swisscom, BT, all they are pushing up and they're going and becoming active. So we have the big players becoming bigger. We have in the past, let's say in the last 10 years, players which were new players becoming bigger and more interested. And we have the new players. It was referred to it in the previous presentation. We have here the Amazon, the Eurosports players, we have the Twitters, YouTube, all these kind of organizations are also coming to our world, and they think sports is the best property. Does this mean that you will live with higher revenues? To be honest, some of you, some not. And I share completely the view that is given by Michael. We are currently at a huge risk. You and we are currently at a huge risk. When I say we are currently at a huge risk, please make you understand we give the money as a kind of loan to the federations. We get the money, we buy the rights, but by buying the rights, we give the federations for the years to come financing means. But we do this in expectation. Because the money that we have, let's say, that we are investing, we get because our users, our partners are trusting us that we invest this money the right way. And when we come to all these discussions that we are having heard over the last couple of weeks, months, that fraud is happening in sports federations, that doping clearly is becoming more and more an issue, that even worse, some kind of top management of sports federations are covering fraud and acting by this, or covering doping and acting by this as a kind of acting against the sports. This is something which was for us unthinkable at a certain stage. And all this has an impact clearly on the discussions that we are having then when we enter into rights negotiations. This is a no-go area. And we are in our contracts absolutely clear that most rigidly we will react to that. Michael also was referring to the Tour de France case. I was there. I was in the middle of that. This was a situation when the Tour de France came to us and said, "Guys, what are you doing if we are disclosing that our top winners of the Tour de France of the last years, probably 10 years, even more, are pulling out, and we are disclosing them as people who were actually cheating? Would you pull out?" And we said to them, "No. If you showing us that you are serious and you want to bring this to the open, we are with you. We will not reduce the contract. Only if you are forced to open up this is your problem. The moment that the federation comes and says, we want it, we are with them. We stand with them, we go with them, and we say we go through this kind of serious situation." So this is something which I can only urge you to do. Please, get out of your world of federations, of power thinking, who is deciding how is the event organized. All this is interesting, but take really the responsibility that you are having as a social responsibility as serious as we are doing it. And we see the threats. We see the threats right, left, and center. But nevertheless, we are still signing deals. And we are signing deals in full conviction with partners where we believe that this working together is really something which is worth it, and where we trust the leadership, where we trust the federation to have these kind of partners aligned and thinking and sharing the same values as we do. And therefore, without announcing it publicly, but at least with being quite outspoken, I'm very happy to tell to you and to inform you that we are really on the very, very, very last miles or words to conclude with EA a deal which stands for the continuation of our excellent partnership that we are having throughout the decades. And we are about to sign a deal which is not only a deal which goes, let's say, for another 2 years. We believe that a long-term deal is doing good. It's doing good for the public, it's doing good for you, and it's doing good for us by having this partnership out there. So we have to still wait. We cannot officially communicate it, and please don't Twitter. We are on new media, so don't Twitter it, but we believe that we are about to sign an 8 years deal with 4 years in the future to come. And this is something which we think shows our trust in you and also your trust in us. So this is something which I really, where we are proud if we come to the last, if we finish the last mile, but we are very proud to have the continuation of this partnership happening. Again, in full trust that you want to embrace with us this world of the changing world, where we have to be successful together. 8 years. 8 years, I mean, 8 years ago, nobody knew what Twitter was. We had no clue. So what do we do if we sign now a long-term agreement? Does it mean we are completely stupid? Is probably your management not seeing the possibilities? Are we just believing that we foresee what is happening in 8 years? The answer is no, we can't. Things are moving too quickly. So we have to have a flexible partnership. We have to have a flexible partnership where all of us work together. And this goes also for the EBU. We are considered as the dinosaurs. We always said, oh my God, they are dead. But we were dead 20 years ago. We were dead 15 years ago. We were dead 10 years ago. But we see more and more people going out of business, and we are still there. And therefore, we are quite happy about this. And this happens because we are just moving on. We are permanently changing. And in order to change, we have to have a communication line. We have to have a communication line with you. We have a perfect communication line with the President, with Christian. We are permanently discussing, talking with you in order to understand what your needs are, but please also understand what our needs are. And what does it mean, change for us? We clearly said we embrace change. We embrace change by partner up. We cannot do it all. We do partners. We go for partners. We see on the market that certain people do better than we do. So why don't we partner up? We create new events. I will come to this, again, in cooperation with you. And we very much support the idea of having a digital strategy in future to come. The EBU, we are strong. We are a very strong organization. I know we are not so much in the headlines quite often, simply because we don't want to be there. And we don't want to say everything, every move we make, every contract we are signing, we are not celebrating it. And we are just, we think, being there for so many years, we don't have to be loud. We only have to be good. Because our best currency is not to being the loudest. Our best currency that we have is trust. And that we know and want and understand that you and the public is trusting us. What we are doing is good. And with this kind of currency, actually, we do quite well. We have until 2024, we are connected with 37 contracts, with 31 federations, 18 sports, and we do something like 2,732 competition days, which means about 700 to 800 competition days a year, which we bring to our widest audience. So it's huge, it's enormous. And we believe that this future, and I look into negotiations that we are currently having, is actually working further, and people are more and more understanding that this is the right way to go. We spoke briefly about the Olympics. We lost the Olympics. We simply lost the Olympics. That's clearly stated. But why did we lose it? Because we simply thought that the Olympics were, at least the call price that was on the table, was too high. We thought this is not standing for the price that's called, because we had 3 events happening in Asia, and then the last event potentially happening in America or Europe. And looking at this, our feeling was very clear that we said, it's difficult whether this is something where we should move on and where we should go for the call price. We cannot refinance it. Just to give you a bit of background information, Discovery signed this deal, and we had no problem with this. And lots of our members then went into sub-licensing agreement with Discovery. But I tell you, it was that close, only, let's say, a couple of meters, that in one of the key territories for the Olympics, the key broadcaster, our member, was ready not to sign. If that had happened, the whole IOC deal would have collapsed, I assume. But clearly it would have been an extremely negative impact for the whole contractual situation with Discovery. So what I'm saying is there is still only one key partner that is important for the Olympic sports, and these are the public service broadcasters. Without them, there is no public service, there is no Olympic movement to be conveyed, whatever the technical development over the next years is. So we said as ABU, yes, we go for partnerships. What have we done? We went for partnerships with IMG. We went for cycling. And there we signed again a deal till 2024, including production and whatever goes with it. We signed a partnership with ESPN, with FINA, for FINA and the FINA Corporation, the swimming events. And even when you look at our cooperation and our cooperation now for athletics, which we also have currently, and we have negotiated, finalized with IAAF, we are also in partnership with ESPN. Again, another partnership where we can do what we do best and where we believe our partner can do what is best for them. We also work, when we look at European athletics, with Discovery and Eurosport. We clearly are partners there. We know that there is a need to show them as far, as wide as possible in the whole of Europe. So again, we go for a partnership. We know they can do certain things better than we do. So this is where we believe that we have to move and to change in order to make sure that we meet the requirement of the future. But we have also to be innovative. I mean, embrace change. That's what your president said. You have taken it. You have undertaken it. You decided, you accepted, you approved a very brave concept that is now up and running in order to secure, as we think, in order to create even a milestone in the future for European sports by having the European Championships 2018. Your big event in Berlin. Frank is here, and we are having the discussion about how to make this known best, how to promote this fantastic event in Berlin, but also in Glasgow as a common event. This is innovation pure. It's a risk. We mentioned it before. It's a risk, absolutely clear. A risk that we go for a new adventure, a new approach. And this is what we are doing here. The moment is coming in 2018 where we have all the sports that you know in these two capital of sports. And we believe by having this, we create an even bigger audience. We create even a higher value, not only for us as broadcasters, but for the sports and for society. This is embracing change, and I'm very grateful that your organization is really participating into that, and that we are going on this venture together, hand in hand. But when I say we, and we have to go and we do partnership, please, and Michael mentioned it before, we have to understand that the things that our world is changing. We have the world changing, that consumer trends are disrupting the media industry, and we have to embrace it for the next 8 years to come. We have clearly a completely evolving video consumption. It was said before. It goes into on-demand, into a digital world. First change. Audience engagement, already mentioned. Users want to share the experience, the viewing experiences. We have to take care of that. We have to answer the question. We have to provide answers to you and to us and to our consumers in order to make sure that this is working properly. We have to move, and we see that the digital world is moving to mobile. And clearly this is something, even the advertisers going in this direction. So we have to take care of this. We cannot expect our audience, your audiences, to sit in front of the first screen. This is over. This is history. We have to live, we will live with this fact that the technical development will move even on the commercial side, being blocking softwares, but also, and we see it a bit later, when we look at new solutions for sponsors of how to be on air. And last but not least, the use of big data to understand what the audience want. In order to get all this done, we have to increase content, value, and exposure. And this can only be done by focusing on 4 main challenges that we are having to live through and to tackle together. That means use all communities to increase content exposure. First thing, and this is a big thing, who are the communities? We will come back to this. Publish relevant content for each audience. Just to put it all on an OTT. We have discussions that federations say, we have our OTT, let us live stream. Let's go to YouTube, big thing, just stream it. And then we have more. Go to Twitter, Facebook, make it live on all these kind of platforms. Wrong, completely wrong. You have to define upfront on which platform, through which means you want to define and you want to distribute what message. Because all messages, all platforms have different audiences and receive different messages, and they want to deliver different content in a different way. So it's not one for one of all. You have to really be clear on what you want to do with the content on the various platforms. Then building relationships with the stakeholders, your athletes. They also will benefit of the situation. Talk to them, get them involved. Make sure that these athletes are the ones who contribute to your success, to our success, by using their communities. Don't let them just do the sports. It's by far wider. You have to talk to them and say, what do you want us to do? What do you need to promote the event further? And reach the maximum exposure on free-to-air, broadcast and digital. Try to balance it out. When we look at the first challenge, use all fan communities to increase content exposure, it's clear. Live is what counts. On-demand sports, still good. Delayed, very difficult. Near live is acceptable in this world. But all these possibilities, options, we have to provide. We must be sure that content will be provided in the sense that whatever the consumption mean is, we're giving it to our audience. By all this, we have to make sure also that brand and visual identity is respected. If you look at the new technology, you see that the screens of the future are screens that will be unfolded. You will carry it probably with you. You can put it on the wall and you watch it there. So the means, whether it's a television set or a mobile phone, even that might be in future over. What counts is that the logo and the branding of who is bringing the signal to you is the one that is seen and visible, even in the new world. So that means your ARD, ZDF, BBC or whatever brand should be wherever you watch in future the content if it comes from your source. Don't go to the channel necessarily, but go to whatever the platform is, but you will see who brings this product to you. Execute a communication strategy. You have seen it. You can build up a fantastic strategy, but with digital, it can kill your world quickly. For example, I think you remember all this kind of poor Chinese doctor, I think, who was hit by the security guys in an airplane because he didn't free his seat for somebody else. He was hit and he was pulled out, and there was a mobile phone following that situation. It took United Airlines probably, I don't know, a couple of billions to, let's say, come to the trusted airline picture and image. These 10 seconds or 5 seconds killed them within 3 minutes. And it was just out there, and nobody could ever control it. If you look at the share price of the company that day, how it dropped. The BMW DG in the presentation of a motor car show collapsed. He just fainted. That was a running joke then in the community. Both companies did the wrong thing. They didn't react to that. They didn't use the communities and say, how can we deal with it? You could say something funny about the situation that your DG is fainting and saying he is smashed by the greatness of the car or whatever. You can do something with it, but you can play with it. They didn't do, and the impact was dramatic. So really be clear on a communication strategy that you want to have. Look at the Olympic Games. Who is the ones, because we're all talking social media, who are the ones that bring most traffic? The athletes. So talk to them, get them involved. It's the athletes. They are the ones that created 138 million interactions with their communities. The organizations following with 26 million, and then the partners coming with 35 million interactions. But again, what I said before, you have to know exactly with whom and what are you communicating on which platform. Posting is great, but if nobody reads it, you can post whatever you want. Don't care. But you, for example, Facebook, and we are not talking about the recent problems of Facebook. Facebook is quite interesting in number of actions they are undertaking. But when you look at, and posts, distributing, but when you look at the fact that what comes back to it, you see that Twitter is clearly quite excellent. Here for the Olympics, half of the posts were made on Twitter. Good. But the platform generated only 7% of all interactions. Instagram was smaller in, let's say, what they posted, but they generated 53% of all interactions. So be clear in what you do, with whom you talk, how you use it. Otherwise, you might invest in the completely wrong, on the completely wrong platform. And this is platform posts against interaction. Again, showing the same picture. Facebook is actually not that strong. Twitter is, and Instagram. These are the big players for certain information. So, Christian, when we talk about sharing content and you want to put it on all platforms and you think this is the way to be modern, we have to be careful in what we do today. But we don't know whether the Twitter of today will be the I don't know what tomorrow. So we have to steer it year by year and be very clear. Do we want to have a live exposure? Is this what we just meeting eyeballs on wherever it is? Or is it a clear message that we know, no, this audience wants this kind of information and that is what we tailor and this is what we give to them. And this will be the complicated discussion that we have to have when we look into, let's say, a partnership many years ahead, and I'm very much looking forward to this kind of cooperation. Publish the relevant content asset for all the audiences, very much what I've said. This is something which we can deliver together with the federations. We have the technical means anyway today. We have white label solutions that we can share, be it with you, be it with your partners, be it with our partners, the media partners, and or with our own solutions. So we have plenty of opportunities there. We have developed from a TV clearly to a media company, and we are today the leading partner for these kind of solutions. We are working with UEFA, for example, on partnerships reaching into 2023, and they are saying we are actually their next generation partner. So we are really very much understanding there is a world outside of the traditional broadcast, which is our world. This is how we do on satellite as well. So satellite, we reach the whole world. We have the technical solution to reach every part in the world, but we believe this is good. But again, as we have said, in the digital world, other solutions have to come. The live streaming audience platforms, we have created their white label solutions again, where we believe, in particular for the European Championships, to come up with completely new worlds. This is what we do together with you for the 2018 European Championships. And again, European athletics is leading the pack. Together with us, we believe that we have to provide, to allow that on OTT, new solutions to access this content is possible. Who knows in this room what OTT means? I think all of you. Over the top. Over the top is something which is very popular. But again, you have to know how you use it and what you do. We want to allow audiences to understand that they can use your sports in a different way. We create a virtual VIP room. All of you can walk now in future through your tools for the European Championships through your personal VIP room. You just walk from right to left, you turn around, you sit, and then you decide where you want to go. And you go turn right, and you want to see the 100 meters because this stream is on. You want to see another part of the competitions. You want to see what happens in Glasgow at the same time. You walk in another room, and in this room you follow the stream and you get the information of what is happening in this sense. So you are your personal, you are the master of the picture, you are the director as a user, as a consumer, and you can find what interests you best. You can put in future, if you want, sponsors there in this VIP room. You can find probably new commercial partners for that. All these are completely new solutions that you and we have to think about. But you think, but as a user, being in a VIP room is not close enough. I want to go into the stadium. Go. We are there. We offer you a 360 view. When you want to stand behind the starting blocks on the 100 meters in the stadium, go there. We have cameras, and we clearly, and you get the same sensation of being in the stadium and looking around and seeing how in life, let's say, the athletes might feel when they are standing at the starting blocks. This is what we believe is the future, that this kind of sensation combined with data, with analytics, all that is there, sitting there, and allow the user to enjoy deeper the sports. Glasgow, yes, you want being in Berlin or somewhere in the world, but you still want to see what happens at the main square in Glasgow. And or when you go to the Breitscheidplatz. And here you see a 360-degree situation where you can understand that this emotions that you see in the streets, you can feel it, you can see it. All this should help us to get the fans better it's But we also want to enrich the linear, that means the traditional TV picture. How do we do this? What you see here, it's probably a bit, it is too small, but what you could see, if I could bring it a bit closer to you, is very simple, that the languages down here, are now could be used in your language in future. Clear. You don't need on graphics one language. You take whatever your language is. We have created solutions now where you can put all here in the national language. And what you could here put for national language in future will be your commercial partner. Your commercial partners will probably be in the position to come in Chinese or to be in Russian or to be in whatever the language is, and you put the commercials then there in the various languages. And this is something which we believe is quite relevant. And clearly you can do the same on timing. You can you convert the traditional speed in miles if you want to have that. All this is in future possible, and this is something which gives you new opportunities to run. But most important, as we have said, is the situation that we have to work with the athletes. And not only the athletes, but also with the new media solutions. We have created a new platform where we differentiate between our members or the rights-owning partners. They can follow all the streams and access through the platform whatever they want. We have created then another sector, which is a sector for the non-rights holder. They should access this content as well to put it on their website or on the newspaper. So we clearly defined the content that they might use in future and they might be interested in, put it with an embargo and download it from our platform for their own platform. That means the newspapers, in theory, could then show highlights of the last day and show then and refer to the live transmission tomorrow, which then allows all of them to promote this event even better and to say tomorrow is the next live transmission at that and that time. All this will be done in top quality, in broadcast quality, and this can be accessed then through a web publishing and clipping tool that we have delivered. We have then developed with the Swiss Ski, just to give you an idea, a near-live publication for special content, and this is something which we work with, which we also give to the FIS, to the Federation, to the World Federation. So all this is happening, and we have done this as well. And then the athletes. This is something we have done new. As I said, the athletes are the key for their communities. We have created with Swiss Television the solution that the athletes can identify and find them on the signal. They put it then on their social media And by that, we can invite them. We hashtag, we show first that it's coming from Switzerland, the signal. If you approach it from England, you will have BBC as the logo there. But the athlete can then show his race to his community. This young man here managed to get, once we have started this project, within a couple of days, 120,000 followers, just by the fact that he could make it grow. So it's a completely new world, and please go to your athletes, make it sure that they take the opportunity, that they are the ones who also use their communities to promote the event, to say the next live show, my next race is live on TV tomorrow at 1800. So we need to have this kind of partnership when we look into future corporations. In other words, we call it CME. CME means that is a product where these kind of content the athletes could put on their own social media solutions, and by that increasing the visibility and the eyeballs that are following the event. So all of this means we want to reach a maximum of exposure, but it can only be done in a cooperation between the rights owning organization, the federation, and us as the partners, the partner. And this is for us the most important part. When we see that people are believing that new media brings new money, no. There is no business case. Yes, we have individual cases where they bought tennis for 40 million. We understand what they are doing. But I know a couple of federations in the last tender procedures that were clearly saying we want a new media partner, and they invited them to bid for the rights to be the key partner. And actually all of these federations, at least for the Olympic sports, failed. At the end, they had or came back to traditional broadcasters, and the impact was that the price dramatically dropped. So don't get carried away with the hope of new partners. A, make sure that your organization is clean, transparent, and open as possible. B, find together with us the best system of having, let's say, the backbone of free-to-air broadcast as the key to access the public. And then you can break it down in communities. People who go in the other direction and start from the other end might jump short, and they might face dramatic problems, at least for the Olympic sports. I'm not talking about series. Series is a bit different. There might be different. But for those organizations that are depending on the one event, on a number of one events, of big events, for them, I think the hope, at least for the years to come, to think that new media is a new income, a new revenue tool, might be disappointed. Anyway, anybody has to take its own decision. I'm very happy that we have found our partnership and our solution together. I think we are modern, we are new, we are creative, and we are very much forward-driven, and I'm very much looking forward, subject, let's say, to the last meetings we have to do on a future partnership with EA. And thank you for your trust, and please trust us. We will be on your toes. We will challenge you again, and we will both try to get the best for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan. And you will have the chance to ask him in our panel discussion more, but that was a great news about the 8 years contract with European Athletics. Thank you very much. And of course, it's not for public yet. But as you saw, the athletics is a perfect sport with different events on the same time, with a lot of statistics to embrace the digital platforms. Now I have for you 3 informations before coffee break. One is that we have 4 stands outside related to DNA competition, to data project, to development, and to Iran Clean project. And here, I want to kindly ask all the federations to stop by for sure and sign a form which will explain what will be the procedure for summer events related to Iran Clean. Second information is that the Belarus Athletics Federation invites you to create a picture on a wall of countries, a map, which they are preparing for their new offices. And information number 3, we should have a Wi-Fi working under the name of Congress, where you need to be connected via your mobile phone number, but it is for free. So now we have 2 more speakers, but before that, a coffee break. Please enjoy it in 30 minutes time. Let's be back. Thank you.